Hello everyone and welcome to Formula EuroLeague Tier 1 British Grand Prix. We're here for the first time in Season 7 for what should be a thoroughly entertaining race. I am Jackson and alongside me today is the one and only Alex Bomberg.
Good evening all, whatever your time zones may be, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, it's a pleasure to be back. Season 7 is well and truly underway at the home of motorsport, the home of F1 here in Northamptonshire, Silverstone in the UK. It's going to be a great race today, Jackson. I, for one, certainly cannot wait.
It's going to be one hell of a race. I mean, it's a track that provides great opportunity for racing, and I mean, with a field that is this just pure speed in this field is insane. With a field like this, it is going to be a fantastic race, and it's impossible to predict. That is the best thing about I love going to the season, is that it is just impossible to predict what's going to happen. So yeah, have you got any predictions, Alex?
I think it'd be wrong for me to put my money on someone right now, if I'm honest, Jackson.
That's fair.
It's going to be a case of who nails the lap in qualifying, who nails the 26 laps of this classic Silverstone circuit. Of course, originally based on what I believe was a World War II air base, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson. Here at Silverstone, of course, the very first Formula One Grand Prix was held here all the way back in 1950. Hasn't served every race at as the British Grand Prix since. Nevertheless, one of the classic tracks on the calendar. One drivers absolutely love coming to, and I have to say, Jackson, hot lapping around here, it's quite a spectacle to go fast around Silverstone.
It is the sheer speed. Of course, a track that has this history, and what a lot of tracks that are very historical, has that incredibly high speed nature to the circuit. But unlike a lot of other classic tracks, it's a very modern venue, which makes it sort of unique in that sense. With some of the sort of the good mix and range of corners, compared to a lot of tracks that are of a similar age, which tend to be either very high speed or very slow speed. Still has a great mix, and of course it's known for its high speeds, but of course you've got that sector one where you have the flat out corners, but then you go into those tighter corners which sort of really do test the driver's ability. Around Silverstone, the driver is tested to the absolute limit with, well, so many corners in such a short space of time. It makes the driver's life so hard, but as a commentator, it makes life much easier because the drivers, well, they never have to stop driving. They're always on the absolute limit. And the first driver on track is indeed VSR Duncan.
I don't know if easy would be the right word for how it makes our lives. Maybe chaotic sometimes, maybe explosive, maybe a bit ambiguous, if you're feeling that way. But, here we are. A lot of returning drivers, as you've said. Ben, formerly known as VRT Benjamin, now moved to CRG. Returning champion, he's got to be a pick for the championship. It's very rare that you don't pick the championship defender to be in the championship fight unless they've retired, which Benjamin hasn't. And actually Benjamin stayed at the same team alongside his teammate Tim Wenting. So I suppose the question is, Jackson, can they carry Renault to Constructors' Championship glory?
I mean, that is definitely a possibility going into the season. I think that is one of the many possibilities going into the season. I will say that you say that the championship, so the reigning champion is of course one of the championship contenders going into next season, but of course last season we saw the defending champions have a dreadful start to the season, through a lot of bad luck to start with, but it shows that even if you had the pace in the past, going to a new season is not as easy as you would perhaps think. These drivers Benjamin's going to have to continue to push so hard just to avoid the incidents. He can't be comfortable here knowing that necessarily he's going to be the one to beat, because it can all change in a flash, especially around here in Silverstone.
Of course it can. And we're going to have our eyes peeled. As I say, I don't know who to keep our eye on specifically. I mentioned Benjamin, but I feel as if that's almost a cop-out, Of course he is. He's the odds-on favourite, but VSR Duncan is a driver I'm going to have my eyes on, coming in, debuting in FEL, along with a few other drivers in that Racing Point team. I believe he's actually one of the first drivers, if not the first driver, to settle up as he comes through the final couple of corners, keeps it within the track limit, traction down nice and well. It's a 23.9 as a banker lap, that's quite strong, and I have to say, Jackson, It is raining.
Is it? Wow. It
We've
is
got
indeed, you're
rain.
correct. This is, as Benjamin does go to the top there. 23.9 of I mean, it was a high 23 that was the pole lap in tier 2. So these guys doing it on their first run, very good job from these guys. But the rain here means that, I mean, it's going to be crucial to get your lap in early. So who is going to be, as that is Sam Gamer up in P3, Kai Elting goes into P2 there. This is, I mean, this is looking very good at the at the moment. It's going to be very entertaining here. Will the rain be a quick shower, or is this rain here to stay? If it's here to stay, I mean, this could be a very short qualifying session.
Yeah, if it's here to stay, this is what the grid is looking like. However, you know, flashback to what happened here at Tier 3 on Friday night. It actually started raining very similar to what it is now, but the grip stayed throughout the session, and people were improving, including myself, on the final runs. So it's not all over for the likes of Midnight Yuri, Warwick Ridge, Tim Wenting, who's just about to start his lap, and those who maybe haven't had an ideal lap. You know, Cool Hans Carter, VR Boyrod, MNT Smash, pretty much everyone from the probably 12th down will be dissatisfied. But you know, looking further up, Benjamin, reigning champion on pole, it's just over half a tenth separating himself and third place VSR Duncan. I think they're all going to be pretty satisfied with their first runs, because high 23.9s, that's a really solid time, as Benjamin does retire. So Benjamin, he's calling it quits. He's saying, nope, track's not improving, he's not improving. That could be a potential mistake, Jackson, if the grip stays throughout the session as it did on Friday night.
I mean, yeah, it depends when that rain started. If they had a little bit of that rain for the first laps they did, then you'd argue definitely they can improve. But if that rain sort of came after Benjamin said his lap, as Tim Wenting does invalidate his lap now, so that is another sort of feat.
Classic Tim.
Something else that's holding him back there, so Tim could well be starting at the back of the field here. I mean, it's impressive that these guys are setting lap times as good as they are, despite the issues they're having, like with the weather in particular. But this really is fascinating to see how this has gone so far.
Cedric has also retired, so that does suggest, as has Smash, so all things are pointing towards a relatively short qualifying session, Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost ready to congratulate Benjamin on pole position. I'll hold off though, because you never know. In Formula League, it can change. The forecast may say rain to the end, but who knows what will happen. Although
we
a lot
could
of
have
top
Tim
guys are
pull out an absolute stormer of a lap here.
I mean, you never know. You never know. Yeah, Tim here. I mean, I'm running on board with him at the moment. He's currently in no ERS, so I've got a feeling it might be an in-lap.
He doesn't have the fuel, actually. I've just checked his dashboard. He's got about half a lap of fuel, so we'll have to pit anyway. So Tim's qualifying goes from bad to worse. Looking at Warwick's Rage, he's invalidated. Midnight is the last of the drivers yet to set a lap who's still on a valid lap, or a lap that he's going to complete. Tim has also invalidated. He's out of fuel. So Midnight, a driver certainly with the pace to mix it with the top guys. Let's see. I feel as if Midnight is going to be the real marker as to how bad the track is right now. Because if he can get within a tenth of, if he can put it up in fifth, then you could argue there's still enough grip.
And he invalidates.
Well, there you go. As I stumble over my words, Midnight nearly puts it backwards into the barrier at Cops, and he invalidates very sideways. I think that does suggest that the grip in the track is disappearing, because usually that's easy flat in these cars. Not anymore. I'm not really sure why drivers are putting on the intermediates. Legend does retire. But I think this is going to be the grid for the race, because I don't see anyone improving. The rain does seem to be getting slightly heavier, and I guess, can we say congratulations to Benjamin for pole? Is that breaking the fourth wall, or do we have to wait it out?
I think Benjamin's. I mean, I'm going to run on board here with Kyle Stinger and Peter at the moment, just for the sake. Let's see if he can find anything here. But if this is the final grid, I think we have got a good race in our hands here, with some very quick guys down the order. But we've also got some drivers up front that all look very similar on pace, with Duncan actually having the fastest Sector 1. Benjamin, of course, having the fastest Sectors 2 and 3. But Duncan showing that flash of pace could show potential, as that is Kai nearly going off the road at the final corner there. But that is a Um, it's going to be a tough session for these guys that have started down the order, and it's just going to get worse in the race because they can try and get up the order, but Silverstone is known for its slipstream trains. So if they can try and recover a few positions, then that's very much possible. But with a field this close, that they're all going to be in one big pack, and I doubt we're going to see a standout drive from anyone. And if it is, I've got a feeling it'll be on strategy. As a few drivers still out on track there. I mean, we can see from riding on board with Kai Elting at the moment that the track grip is no longer there. And that if these guys don't all retire, we're going to be sitting here for the next 8 minutes, so take the hint, guys.
Well, we can fill 8 minutes, Jackson. You know, this is our our job. Yuri's retired, Kai Elting's gone round, so it's certainly not a track that's going to improve. But without putting a dampening on it, without dampening anyone's spirits, no pun intended. Although the pun was certainly intended.
I was going to say that could not have been unintended.
Certainly intended pun there. It does seem sometimes at Silverstone it is almost status quo. We do see a lot of DRS trains. We do see a lot of, I don't want to say boring, but traditional, conventional one-stop soft to medium strategy here at Silverstone, which makes not only the opening laps but the in-laps and the out-laps so important, because if you fall into a DRS train, it's really, really hard to make a move here at Silverstone. Your only sort of main overtaking spots here at Silverstone would, I'd argue, turn 3 into Village, I think it is, turn 6 into Brooklands, and probably down into Stowe after the DRS. So falling into a DRS train, you're not going to get that gain, you're not going to get that purchase on the car ahead. It's down to really what you can do on the strategy, and if you can pit early, if you can play around with anything potentially. But I think the opening laps are going to be really important, because that's the main sort of time where you can make up places on the drivers around you.
Yeah, I mean, the early laps are going to be crucial for a lot of these guys to sort of make those positions, especially off the race start and into turns 1 and 2 and 3, because that's when it really is sort of, if someone up near the front maybe gets a bit of a slide or loses a bit of traction, that's where sort of they can maybe cause sort of a part of the pack to slow down. If you can be sort of to the outside or the inside of that group of cars, you could get a few positions in one go there. But one thing we have to consider here, it's Silverstone at the end of the day. Could we have some rain in the race as well? That could be something that mixes things up. Although from the lap times I'm seeing, well, I was going to say from the lap times we're seeing, probably dry setups. But they only had 1 lap, but it's still to see some of the midfield at least, sort of in sort of the mid to low 24s. You expect these guys in general to be, I mean, a lot of these guys to be easy 23.9s or quicker. I mean, they only got the 1 lap in qualifying, so you could definitely say that is why, and that would be a very reasonable reason why they didn't get a quick lap in. But, perhaps these slightly off the pace lap times could suggest a slightly higher wings being run. Although I've been very wrong with these things in the past, for example, at Japan last season.
Of course, as you said, just waiting for the last couple of drivers to retire, or we can sit down and have a little chin wag, as they say, Jackson, on this fine Sunday evening. Hope you're all well.
We could discuss last season's race, which of course Vierty Ballona took a dominant victory, if I remember correctly. At that race, slipstream train was very much a key part of it, as drivers like Warage appeared to have the pace to win it, but just got caught up in a sort of a pack of cars and just couldn't quite break away. But it was a very interesting race. A lot of the race was sort of slipstream trains, but occasionally you had that one driver that would go for the move, and then behind them, sort of the field would catch up to each other and get within overtaking distance, and that's when the battling starts to happen. It's like that on a lot of tracks. Where sort of once that one driver goes for the overtake, it can cause sort of a sort of repercussions throughout the field behind them, as sort of everyone gets bunched up behind it, and that's when you get to see sort of some of the crazier overtakes, and that's where potentially we see some of the collisions, which could bring out a safety car, which around Silverstone is not something that we've never seen before. Silverstone, it got quite big runoffs, but the high speeds here, you can still find the barriers. In Tier 2, safety car was a common feature of the race, and I believe the same in Tier 3, if I'm not mistaken. So it will be interesting to see how these drivers deal, and if there is a safety car, what strategy do you go? It's an easy one-stop around here without a safety car, but I mean, Alex, what would you do in the event of a safety car coming out with 10 laps to go, and let's say you've already made your pit stop from the softs to mediums? Would you pit for another set of softs and lose a load of places, or would you prefer to have that track position and stay out on the medium tyres?
Yeah, it's obviously relative, Jackson, as to what the cars around you are doing, because if no one else pits, then there's an argument for and against. If you're on the mediums, old mediums, get the chance of a stop. If you're leading the race, maybe not. Maybe you'd stay out if people behind you stay out. Equally, if you're at the back, it's a no-brainer to pit. If you're in the middle, then you sort of have to play it by ear. There's no point really, sitting here and theorizing over what the drivers could do, what would you do, because every situation is different. Every lap that goes by, every corner that's turned, there's a bit more wear added, there's a bit less fuel in the car, there's a bit less ERS, and that can all come together to create a lot of factors. Don't forget, if you pit behind your teammate in a safety car, you can lose 3, 4, 5 positions even. So that's another factor you have to bear in mind. So it's all really about being in the moment and who calls the shots right. And that could be the difference between winning and losing the championship this season.
Yeah, that's very true. It is sort of, we saw last season that a mistake in one race, especially strategic error, could cost you throughout the entire season. Of course, in the first race of last season, Kyle Tink was running in an easy podium position, sort of running in the top 4, fighting for the win, but then sort of pitting a bit too early. They ended up with a puncture late in the race, and it cost them a lot of points that day. And it was that race they never sort of truly recovered from, because they had a few more bad results sort of in the races after. But you've got to say maybe a win or even a podium in that race would have been enough to give them that sort of motivation to sort of push hard and sort of really believe the championship was possible. However, in the end, it went wrong for them, and it sort of barrel rolled from there. And that's why it's so key to get, of all the rounds of the season, round 1 is the one you really want to get right. Of course, races like the finale are very important as well. But round 1, it sets up your season. So if you have a bad race in round 1 of the season, it's going to leave sort of a damper on the rest of your season in general, and you really have to try and bounce back from it. And sometimes you just don't have the chance to.
Yeah, I think we're going to get Warwick's Rage, bit of on-track action here. He's going to be, well, if he sets a valid lap, it'll be 19th. If it's good enough, if it's better than Tim Wenting's time, it could be P18, so there's lots on the cards here at the end of this qualifying session, Jackson. Who's going to start P18? Is it going to be Tim? Is it going to be Warwick's Rage?
I mean, we've got a battle on our hands here, It is going to be an interesting one to see. I mean, do these intermediate tyres have the pace? Who knows? Warwick's Rage really wants these extra positions, that row of positions. Of course, makes all the difference. I'll be honest with you, around Silverstone I'd probably rather start 20th than 18th, purely because with sort of turns 1, 2, 3, 4 in the layout they are, when you if you back off through turns 1 and 2, you can often find yourself in a much better position going into turns 3 and 4. Whereas of course when you're in when you've got cars in front and behind you, then it's much harder to get yourself in a position where you can sort of back off and let the drivers in front of you race. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting strategy here by Warrage to annoy all of the other 19 drivers, which of course going into the race will leave him a victim, perhaps, definitely vulnerable to being, not taken, I'm not suggesting anything like that, but I mean, you're not going to be happy with the guy that made you wait an extra 5 minutes in qualifying, so you lost a bit of track time.
I think it's been more than 5 minutes, I think it's been the best part of 10 minutes, Jackson.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, we're still here, we're having a good time, I hope we're entertaining everyone on the stream whilst Warrage battles and throws his hat around the Silverstone circuit. Can he get up into 18th position, or will he have to settle for just 19th and relegate Shizou Midnight to the back of the grid? Does he have enough grip in them intermediate tyres on this dampened day, on the dampened circuit round Woodcote into Copse now, through the old start-finish straight? Copse corner flat out in dry conditions, not so wet condition, a little bit of a wiggle for the Haas driver who has remained at his team, if I'm not mistaken, from last season. Put together a championship challenge, wasn't able to complete that, falling victim to Benjamin, formerly known as VRT Benjamin, now CRG Benjamin I should say, who will be on pole for today unless Warwick's Rage pulls out something special through this final sector, which, if I'm completely honest, Jackson, I don't think is going to happen.
Well, I mean, there's a typical game glitch which told me he had a faster sector 2, but for any viewers, don't worry, that is not the case. He is not finding extreme pace on the intermediate tyres. He hasn't found a bug in the game, or he hasn't found a bit of extra grip out there. Where's he going to go? And that is a fantastic P19 there for Warwick's Rage. I mean, after he had a strong start to last season and sort of very consistent in the opening races. After it's not looking quite as good this season, but of course we've got a long race ahead of us. It's going to be interesting to see what these drivers do, what tyres do they start on. But we've got a very close sort of top 3 here, so if that can transition into the race, then we could have quite the race on our hands.
Yeah, I think most drivers will probably choose to go with a simple soft to medium strategy. I don't think the medium to soft is it's not as strong at this track as it is at other tracks. Nevertheless, still expect a few drivers to go for it. We might see some surprises, but everyone inside the top 10 will be starting on the soft tyres, and 11th downwards to 20th will all get a free choice, so that could be interesting to see how that unfolds throughout the 26 laps here today.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting race, of course, setting up the entire season. But as we saw last season, round 1, although I was saying earlier it does set up your season, you can have a sort of a mediocre round 1 and build on that throughout the season, which is exactly what Benjamin did last season. I think if I remember correctly, it was only sort of a mid, sort of perhaps a P4, P5 around there. And wasn't in the fight for the win at any stage in round 1 last season, but he sort of clearly showed that he had the pace, improving throughout the season, and I mean, he ended up champion. So I think in a league as competitive as FEL, you should be consistent. That is really the key to being a championship contender, is consistency, as these drivers now prepare for the formation lap. And Alex, when we see the drivers, would you like to run us through the grid order?
When we all load in, defending champion Benjamin, returning to FEL, returning to Renault, returning to the front row, not just the front row, pole position, so I'm sure he'll be absolutely chuffed with that. KJ Elting right behind him in second, 2 returning drivers filling up the first 2 slots of grid. Then it's the first of the new drivers, VSR Duncan. You know, you could argue that if he had a full qualifying session, could he have mixed it with Benjamin? Could he have got the head? Quite possibly. It's all very tight in that top 3. Duncan up in 3rd, expecting and hoping to cause trouble for the top 2. Let's see if he's going to be able to do that throughout the course of this race. Sam Gamer up in 4th with George Nader. I have to say, quite an impressive qualifying from George Nader to be up in 5th there, from his previous performances at the end of last season. A little bit slack from that, so I think he's going to be quite happy with that, up in 5th. Cedric, the second of the Racing Points. Racing Point had quite a decent qualifying, in all honesty, with him up in 6th. IFR Legend, FEL Tier 2 champion, making his debut in, I'm not sure if it's his debut, but his full-time seat debut here in FEL, up in 7th. VRT Luke, 8th. VRT Ballon, and 9th. Harry B rounds out the top 10. And then we go on to the first of the drivers with a free set, and it is indeed Korn, SHZ Korn. He does take the medium tyres, as does Dollar Tommy. Lars and Smash both choose for the soft tyres, and everyone below, Boyrod, Yuri, Cool Hands Carter, Tim Wenting opts for the soft tyres, but Boyrod, Yuri, Cool Hands Carter, Warwick's Rage, and Midnight rounding off the back of the grid, all choosing medium tyres. So, we've got an interesting lineup, new drivers, new faces, returning faces, and it's a competitive grid as ever, Jackson. I can't wait to get this season started, and it's quite literally just around the corner.
Yep, the drivers make their way to the grid now. The final few, leaders of Benjamin and Kai lining up into their grid spots now as they prepare for the race. They now have to wait for the drivers near the back of the grid, Works Rage and Midnight near the back of the grid there, lining up in their grid spots now. But the drivers are now in position, and we wait for the lights. A short delay now whilst we wait for the lights to come on. Lights are coming on now, revs are rising. It's 5 lights. And we are racing in Silverstone. It is Benjamin with a great start there. Kai Elting not getting a flyer, but he does keep his nose in. Can he force Benjamin wide? They're still wheel-to-wheel, they're up for the lead. Kai Elting sending it up the inside, going into turn 3. Can he take the lead away from Benjamin? He's going to try and hang it around the outside as there's a collision in the background. But Benjamin does hold on as that is Duncan trying to go up the inside of Kai Elting. He's not quite able to pull it off. But Kai Elting's going to go for the lead now as they head towards Brooklands. There's another collision in the background. It's a Red Bull around. Kai Elting up the inside now into Brooklands. He's going to take the lead. Yes, he can. Up into first position as Duncan now is going to have a go at Benjamin. And Benjamin's around. Benjamin's sideways. Has he been able to keep it? Yes, he has. As safety car has been deployed
safety
now.
Safety car, Jackson. Safety car. And carnage at the start there. Absolute carnage. What a start from Kai Elting. Benjamin lost a place. Nearly lost the second one to Duncan. But he holds station in 3rd. Ballina all the way from 10th up in 5th. So what a start the Mercedes driver has had, gaining 5 places there. He's going to look to continue that trend throughout the race as George Nader goes past, so maybe that was an illegal overtake. Nevertheless, Ballina 4 positions up into 10th. He'll be pretty happy with that. But who are the ultimate losers of the start? I saw Tim Wentic with some damage. He's got no front wing in actual fact. Boyrod looks as if he has a healthy front wing, but he was backwards at turn 4, so I'm not sure if he got spun around by Tim Wenting. Legend also had some contact and was round at turn 3 at Farmers. Kai Elting, he sped in the pit lane, Jackson. Oh, what a start! Unravelled, ruined by not being able to slow down in time. Rookie error for the McLaren driver.
Yeah, the former champion of Formula Euroleague, they're pitting early for the hard tyres, trying this strategy. I mean, I can see it working, I can see it not working. It could go either way here. A motorised safety car could really mess them up. But it's a bold strategy here for the leading group, as they're now going to lose quite a lot of positions here. And it's going to be, I think it's about half. The interesting thing is it's about 50-50 in terms of who's pitted and who hasn't. There's a good solid amount of cars that have decided to stay out, with Sam Gamer taking the lead now. But there are a significant amount of drivers that have pitted, so this is going to be a very interesting one to see the tyre situation here, as we just have to wait for the timing graphics on the left to fix themselves. Sorry about this, everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, you caught me out there. I thought Sam Gamer was down in the pits, but no, you are right. Jackson's right. Sam Gamer does lead from George Nader, from Dollar Tommy, from Cedric, Smash, Cool Hands Carter, Boyrod is the last of those not to pit. Then it's Kai Elting, then it's Benjamin. I feel as if the orders stayed sort of the same as what it was when the drivers pit. Well, obviously check that once the leaderboard sorts itself out, and I think it has. I think Luke has actually made a position on Ballina, but other than that, it all looks relatively status quo.
Yeah, I mean, 7 drivers stayed out there, so it's going to be interesting. The guys can make it work now. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can do it. Pace is going to be crucial here. Now, we know a lot of these drivers that have stayed out are very quick drivers, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can sort of show that pace and make this strategy work. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the end. But, yeah, I mean, Kai Elting here on the hard tyres, is he going to have the pace to try and make this work or not? The pit stops here, it's a long pit entry, sort of actual time in the pit lane, but the delta to the actual track is fairly average. So it's going to be close here to see who comes out on top.
I mean, everyone he's fighting with is also on them hard tyres, so it's not like he's going to have a pace deficit to the drivers effectively around him. What is the problem, though, is that 5-second penalty. I'm not sure how he managed that. Everyone else stopped it. Maybe we know it is a slow pit lane. You went to quite quickly and then slowed down harshly to 37 miles an hour. But yeah, he'll be disappointed with himself, Kai, because that's a big 5 seconds, and it's not like it's a removable penalty either. It's a slam dunk. If you speed in the pit lane, you've sped in the pit lane. Unfortunately, it's not like it's a warning you got pushed off for, which the stewards can remove certainly fairly. But yeah, that's a slam dunk penalty, and that can really harm his chances in a league that is as close as this. But what will be interesting is the likes of the drivers who haven't pitted, Boyerod and all the way up to Sam Gamer. Interesting to see how much of a gap they'll be able to pull, because they can probably go for the best part of 9 laps on these tyres, on the soft tyres that is. Expect the medium tyres to go to around about lap 15 or 16 before they strap on the softs. If they can pull out a good gap, I'm not sure how much they'd really be able to pull out, but the more the merrier for the front runners, and they will set themselves up better by having more of a gap. They will be out probably in last, but with a tyre advantage, they should be able to pull themselves back up through. One thing that is going to be on my mind, just to cut you off, sorry Jackson.
No, that's fine.
But there's going to become a point in the race where Kyle Elting's tyres will be in a better condition than the likes of Boyerod, Cool Hands Carter, the drivers immediately ahead of him. What Elting and the likes of Benjamin, Duncan, Luke, all them following, the effective leaders of the race have to be careful of, is not getting caught up in an instant with them, because if they get caught up in an instant with a back marker, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's game over. It's race over for the drivers. So they've got to balance pace with caution here on this safety car restart and probably the coming 10-15 laps.
Yeah, as safety car is in this lap now, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers deal with the tyre differences. It's going to be about which group can stay together in the DRS terrain better, if they can pull each other along. But it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top as Sam Gamer prepares to leave the field away for the start of lap 4 of this British Grand Prix. First race season 7 is back underway now. Sam Gamer leads the field with George Nader in second, Dolatomi in third. Looks like most of the pack crews got away very well with no major issues throughout. The pack crews battling further down the order between Tim Wentic and MNT Yuri as they battle their way up through the first corners of the lap. But Sam Gamer does hold the lead here as they prepare for what is going to be a very interesting strategy battle.
Of course, Sam Gamer, good restart. All relatively status quo as Elting is looking for a move down the inside. That's one ticked off already, earlier than I expected, but them hard tyres turning on quite well at this restart, Jackson. Elting up into 7th.
Yeah, that's I'm surprised by how well those hard tyres are done. You'd think of all the tyres that would struggle for temperature here, it would be the hard tyres, of course. But then again, that they would sort of, I suppose, perhaps the medium tyres a bit more wear. I mean, I just struggling to find a reason why the hard tyres would do so well on a restart like this. But nonetheless, they have made it work, and Kai is up into P7. And at first, I mean, he's done a great job there. He's breaking up the lead group here, because the lead group is really separating out quite a bit, with George Nader and Sam Gamer pulling away. But then you've got a bit of a gap there, so can we just see if these guys are going to be pulled along by the front runners, or if the hard tyre runners are just going to cut through them. So it's all going to be whether these guys can work together, or if they start battling. I think that's it for their strategy. As there's some more battling further down the order between the hard runners here. Cometa Lars has got past Harry B, it appears, as they make their way through the vertical chicane and through the final corner. But up front, it is very close between George Nader and Sam Gamer at the moment. But they are, as I said, leaving the rest of the field behind at the moment. Dolatomi got a bit of a train going here. Cedric, Smash, and Cool Hands Carter all right behind. But Kyle Elting still not quite on the back of this group, and he's out of DRS. So with what we'd assume is a pace disadvantage on those hard compound tyres, as that is Benjamin getting past Boyerod there. Good move there for the runner driver. Boyerod being smart here, not fighting the positions too hard, and sort of really accepting his fate in this race, and perhaps hoping for a mid-race safety car. That's Duncan that's going to go past now, as it appears as Boyerod's got a penalty for going wide down a straight. I mean, that's a bit. It's a bit silly, to be honest. But I mean, perhaps he got pushed out wide. I think it was fairly sort of just drove off the road. But perhaps he will try and appeal that. I don't know. But it's been not a good start there for the Red Bull driver on his full-time debut this season.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't want to say it's easy to do, because it's not easy to do. But yeah, if you look down, if you're looking at, maybe your MFD adjusting some fuel strategies, or your differential maybe into a corner or whatever, and you look away, you look up, and all of a sudden you're off the road, that's a warning. So it happens. He'll be kicking himself, but it is what it is. He's got to get his head down and crack on. But yeah, Eltink, Benjamin and Duncan all moving up quite well so far. The next on Eltink's radar is going to be Cool Hans Carter, who's pushing the likes of Smash and Cedric, and Dollar Tommy actually, who has fallen out of George Nader's DRS. I think you mentioned that a moment ago, Jackson. Yeah, this battle is going to close up. Kai has got to be careful to not fall into a DRS train from the cars ahead. At the same time, he can't really afford to lose a position to either Benjamin or Duncan, or, in a worst case scenario, both, because that would be catastrophic for the McLaren driver. Got to remember, he still has that 5-second time penalty, which he will have to serve if he pits again. If he doesn't pit, it will be added to his time at the end of this race.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to sort of figure out there, because if he can't shake them off in DRS terms, he'll pull about 5-6 cars behind him that will then inevitably get the position at the end, as that is Cedric getting past Olatomi. So as that is MNT Smash trying to follow him through, up the inside of Stowe there. Can he make it stick as they go still battling into the Vale chicane? Cedric gets back up the inside, but can he make it stick? It looks like he has made it stick there, and will hold. Sorry, that's Dolatomi that was behind MNT Smash there, but those medium tyres for Dolatomi not working so far. However, that battling has allowed Kai to catch up a little bit, still just outside of that DRS. But now, those medium runners, will they be able to pull away from Kai, or will those hard tyres start to come into their own here?
Yeah, I think the medium tyres are struggling a bit more than what we expected. Blurrod's just lost 2 positions to Luke and Ballina, and we can see Dolatomi dropping back behind, while all of the soft runners remaining in, or all of the drivers remaining on them soft tyres as Ballina makes a move past Luke into Brooklands. But yeah, the medium tyres just not working quite as well as we expected, and all that battling has brought Kai Elting into the... well, he's right on the borderline right now. He might get it if he keeps it tidy through Cops and Maggot, as it's on the borderline. Nevertheless, he's there or thereabouts. But Jackson, how much nursing do you think these hard tyre runners will have to do to these tyres in order to get them to the end? Because surely it's got to be a little bit borderline come lap 26 of this race.
I've got to agree with you there. I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a simple task here. I think they very much are at risk of perhaps puncturing the race. And the question is, all these drivers that did pit for the hards, how many of them were planning it? How many of them reacted to those that were in front of them? Because Kai leading the field, I mean, in the past he's been, I mean, last season, in round 1 of the season, he got a puncture. I mean, if that was to repeat itself this season, that would be a horrible sort of coincidence. But it was sort of... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of punctures here with some of these drivers come the end of this race. Because it seems... oh, that's collision there! Cool Hans Carter and Dolatomi. That has allowed Kai right onto the back of them there. Cool Hans Carter went up the inside of turn 4, and it looks like he locked up a brake and essentially hit Dolatomi wide with his rear tyre. I'm not sure what Dolatomi will think of that, but he's not going to be able to try and fight back into that corner. I think it's crucial here that they try and pull away, but with DRS so powerful here, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the only drivers here that can perhaps make the not pitting work in the event that tyre wear isn't too bad for drivers like Kai. Speaking of Kai, that is Benjamin all over the back of him as they go into Cop's corner. Benjamin looks like he's backed out there. Intelligent move there to not go up the inside or outside into Cop's corner. However, he's looking good here to perhaps go for a move on Kai at some point whilst they're in the traffic. As that is Smash and Cedric, who have both just got a penalty there. That's not good for their races, but the only soft runners at the moment that are impressing me to the extent that I think they could potentially... that's Cool Hans Carter, who has moved down the straight and broken Dolatomi's wing. That is... these two do not look happy with each other at all. Both of them would
certainly questionable. Eltink now making a move past Dolatomi, who goes into the pits. That's going to move him up into 6th. I'm sure that the stewards will have an in-depth look at Cool Hans Carter, because I don't think this is acceptable driving at all from the Mercedes driver. I've sort of been watching him quietly over the last lap or so. He wasn't happy with the move that Dolatomi made on him. Kai Elting's now going to look down the inside. He turns in to make a bit of contact. This is where Kai Elting has to keep it clean, but at the same time he's got to get a move on. He's got his rivals directly behind him. Kai, down the inside, he gets that move done. Let's see if Benjamin can follow suit. He's going to try. He goes to the inside. Let's see what Duncan's going to do. He's waiting in the wings, watching this. Benjamin locks up. Duncan looks down the inside, nearly makes a bit of contact with the Mercedes. Somehow they're all keeping it clean. It's Kai ahead of Benjamin, ahead of Carter, ahead of Duncan for the time being. Duncan coming back at him now. Here we go, the Racing Point against the Mercedes. The Racing Point dubbed to the pink Mercedes. The pink Mercedes goes down the inside and makes contact. He somehow keeps it together. Incredible car control from the Racing Point driver. Nevertheless, he's lost 4 positions. It could have been a lot worse than that, Jackson.
What a save there from VSR Duncan.
Gordon Banks.
That was just absolutely fantastic there. And a great job. I mean, it's a shame to see him losing the positions there. But as Cool Hands Carter fights the others as hard as he fighted Duncan, perhaps he'll have the chance to get them back. As into the pit lane comes George Nader and Cedric as... does Smash come into the pits? No, he doesn't. So Sam Gamer and Smash stay out for another lap.
So that's going to put Ballina up in an effective P3. He got past Cool Hands Carter. His teammate let him through quite compliantly, and Luke followed suit a couple of corners later. Carter does have damage on the front of his car, and Duncan is right on the back of his rival now. As I can see, I believe that's Midnight making a move on Harry up into 11th. They're side by side. We're going to keep an eye on Duncan and Cool Hands Carter as Carter lets Duncan through, so he's clearly thought better off than attacking as if his life depended on it last lap.
Perhaps, just to go throw this one out there, perhaps he was fighting the drivers harder until his teammate caught up to him, just to try and give his teammate a better chance at passing a few of those cars. Perhaps that's just an idea, perhaps he was just fighting everyone as hard. But just perhaps an idea there that Cool Hands Carter was trying to back people into Ballina, who of course he then let through willingly. Warrage with a penalty. Warrage not having the best of races here, down in 15th place. Not where you'd expect to see him. But interestingly, how far back are the medium runners? They are 14 seconds off. Now, I think Sam Gamer, will be slightly closer. But I think we're gonna have to watch that gap closely. But 14 seconds, you're gonna have to catch it about a second a lap if you want to make that strategy work. And I'm just not sure if that'll happen.
A second a lap's very ambitious, especially when a lot of the drivers will have DRS, so I think right now it does look as if the hard tyre was the right strategy to go with. Nevertheless, we'll see how it unfolds throughout the rest of the race. Sam Gamer is looking quite good at the minute. He's got the best part of 8 seconds, or over 8 seconds I should say actually, to Kai Elting. It should feed him out if we look in terms of the gap to the leader in terms of the other cars. It will feed him out down in 17th position. Nevertheless, he should be still probably about 10 seconds off the back of Yuri, so not sure if this strategy right now is working for the likes of the drivers who didn't stop under the safety car.
It's going to be interesting. We're really going to have to wait until later in this race to truly find out here. He's battling into Copse Corner again. We've got Cool Hands Carter and Harry wheel to wheel. Wheel bang there. Harry's on the grass going into the corner. It's very wide through the corner. That's a spinner. And who is that? It's Boyrod again. It's not been his day as he's gone around yet again. And Harry does get the position on Cool Hands Carter there. Perhaps off the track, although he was forced off on entry. So I think that that wasn't exactly an unfair move necessarily. As it's 3 wide behind. Oh, and crashing down the straight. Another great save there. Korn there was pushed onto the grass suddenly down the straight by, I believe that was Legend. And somehow managed to get control of his car as it wiggled through the grass. So that Cool Hands Carter in the grass now, cutting the corner. Legend gets the position. I mean, Cool Hands Carter, this damage is causing a lot of drama here, as that's Tim Wentink. Gonna go for the move into turn 1, is he? Yes, he is. Is he gonna get spun? No, he isn't, as he's staying on the wheel as that's Corn off the road again. Into turn 3 and 4 into Village and the loop there. That's all big squeeze from Tim Wentink. What has he done there? What was that from Tim Wentink? I mean, the game gave me possibly the worst onboard for it. But,
I was struggling with the onboard as well. But,
as that's Ballina. Ballina's crashed. Ballina has crashed there, and that's a big crash there. How has he lost the... Will there be any form of safety car? It does not look like it, as the race continues to go on. And no safety car. That came out of nowhere.
Has he had contact? He was battling. Was he battling away with the likes of Luke or Duncan? Because I think he was around them guys. Duncan is actually back ahead of Luke, so there must have been contact. Because you don't just crash there unless he's had some form of a brake failure.
Yeah, as Sam Gamer into the pit lane now, what is he going... Well, I mean, I was going to say, what's he going to... Of course, going to go to the medium compounder tyres. Where's he going to come out, though? That's the question. As Smash comes into the pits behind him. Those two are the last remaining drivers on the soft compound tyres. Cool Hands Carter and Boyrod are the two drivers left now. Well, I mean, they both... The strategy's just not worked for the drivers that have stayed out at the moment. As that's Tim Wentock who speeds into the pit lane. I've got a feeling there's going to be a bit of drama after this race, because in the Cool Hands Carter incident, perhaps there's some other incidents that we missed. Perhaps repercussions from Cool Hands Carter holding up the pack. It appears that some other drivers have got away from that with damage, or some sort of extra tyre wear. As Ballina, his wheel disconnected. That is a shame for Ballina there. That is obviously not what you want. But at the moment, something crucial to Sam Gamer's race. I mean, I'm now going to be constantly checking Sam Gamer's lap times compared to Kai Elting's. But Sam Gamer here, only 4 seconds off of Boyrod, but then that's 3 seconds off of Warade, and that's a further 3 seconds off of the Williams driver in front. So, let's check. The gap leader is 20 seconds. That is going to be very hard to catch up at the moment. I think he's going to need a safety car to make this work. And even if there's a safety car, you'd imagine that the leaders would pit for a set of mediums or a set of softs. And I think with the safety car pit stops being so much shorter, they would still come out in front. So at the moment, I think Sam Gamer's got the pace to definitely catch up and perhaps get a few positions and perhaps get into the points, but I'm not sure if the win is on for today.
No, I think he's going to certainly struggle. We'll have to see though. You know, anything can happen, and yeah, fighting for the pack will be tricky. We'll have to see. As I say, let's not write him off yet. There's still 12 laps left to go. The leaders can still run into some tyre dramas, but I have to say, what a drive Duncan's done so far. He had that mistake as, I believe it was a result of contact with, I believe Cool Hands Carter for Cops it was, and you know, dropped 4 or 5 positions. He's all the way back up into 3rd now, so he's profited from, you know, issues around him, and has clawed that racing point back up into 3rd, and is, you know, again, a legitimate chance for the race win here.
It's very true, as Yuri is retired in the pit lane there. It's been a tough race for the Alfa Romeo driver. But Duncan here in a great position here, and a net P2 of course with penalties. But as we saw in the finale last season, despite that penalty, it doesn't always mean the driver won't go for the move. Now Benjamin is a very, very intelligent driver, and I see no reason for him to go for the overtake on the lead. But in the event that he perhaps gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, he may be forced into doing it to try and break the gap to Duncan, and in which case we could see a lot of drama here. But I mean, if I'm Benjamin at the moment, I'm sitting in 2nd place, although perhaps you'd have that tiny bit of doubt in your mind, what if that penalty wasn't legitimate? Because of course, speeding in the pit lane, it's very hard for that to not be a legitimate penalty, but it's not unheard of. I've heard many a times actually that speeding in the pit lane penalties have actually been incorrectly given. Now we have no idea whether this was the case in this scenario, but I mean, in Benjamin's mind, if he doesn't know for certain, surely there's a bit of his mind that's going, I should probably get the lead just in case. As that's Duncan. Duncan's gone off at the same place as Ballina. That is
again,
and he's straight on. Where is that car? It's straight on by a long way, and the virtual safety car is deployed. That must be a wheel disconnect, because that is just fully straight on. That is a crazy place to go off. That's not even kind of close to the corner there.
Yeah, he lost a position to Luke, so I'm not sure if he was experiencing wheel issues or something else, but Duncan, who we were saying was a pick for the win, has gone and stacked it in the wall. So similar to Ballina. So was it similar issues? Quite, people saying on the chat, wheel failure, quite possibly. What a shame for Duncan in what could have been a glorious debut. He was on for 2nd, could have been even better. But the virtual safety car now in. Yeah, wheel disconnect for Duncan. So twice at the same corner. What are the chances of that, Jackson?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, if I'm any of the drivers in the field now, I'd be a bit scared going through Brooklands. I'd keep a tighter grip on the wheel, and perhaps even the controller. Keep it next to me, just within reach, so in case of emergency, get ready to grab the controller, of course. A lot of these drivers that do use wheel will be obviously much slower on controller, but I mean, it's better than the DNF if you ask me. But this has been a crazy race for reliability. Of course, in esports, you don't really have reliability, but of course, one thing is, of course, your wheel and how well that does. As something I noticed watching the leaders at the moment is Benjamin is currently 100% on his ERS. Although, just to interrupt myself there, Luke, I've noticed, up in P3 and in a net P2 at the moment. Fantastic drive for the Williams driver. And perhaps, if he keeps up at this pace, got a chance at... But it's a long shot, but maybe he can challenge Benjamin for the lead. I think Luke's one of the best drivers towards the end of last season. He was relatively quiet throughout most of the season, but I think he ended up getting the most wins of anyone last season. Despite finishing relatively low in the championship for a driver that would have got most wins last season. So it's a bit of a surprise in that sense, and it's very interesting to see, as we're seeing a bit of drama in the comments here, that Yuri was he was pushed off by Tim and Warrage that were crashing into each other on purpose. So that could explain what we didn't get a very good view of because of the bad camera angle. But that could definitely give us a better idea of what has happened in that small incident that happened into the loop.
Yeah, just a little update on terms of the current podium. Currently, Kai's going to drop off the podium. Lars will inherit the final podium spot. He's just clinging on to that 5 seconds. He's going to hope, for all that's holy, that he's not going to lose a further 2/10, or 3/10 now I should say, throughout the last 7 laps of this race. We'll have to see. You could trust Kai to open that up. Nevertheless, I don't think he's going to be too satisfied with anything less than the win. And I have to say right now, it looks extremely unlikely.
Just to throw another name into the hat here, not for the win but for the podium here, Midnight, a driver that we know is of an extremely high level. He started last in this race and he's currently in 15th position. If he could get a podium today, I mean, I'd have to take a bow, I think, because that would just be one hell of a drive that really shows that maybe could there be team orders here at AlphaTauri. As Midnight, is he going to go for the move on Lars into Stone? No, he doesn't. He's being that is very mature there from Midnight to not go for the move. I mean, that's assuming there is no team orders here. But I mean, that was very much an opportunity for a dive bomb and he didn't take it. And at this stage of the race, that is probably the right choice, especially since he's got very strong pace at the moment.
Yeah, well, let's not forget his 3-second time penalty is going to hurt him massively.
Yes. That will. But again, we have seen in the past 3-second penalty being removed though, so we don't know there. Again, bit of doubt thrown into the drivers around him.
Well, we have to assume it's real until
yes, of course.
Until it's proven otherwise. So you know, it's not beneficial at all. But you know, I'll have to crack on. And Harry B right now in prime position to inherit that 5th place from Midnight. Harry B's drove a strong, quiet race, you have to say. But yeah.
Harry here, if Midnight and Lars do start to battle, as Bora does at the fast lap of the race, if Midnight and Lars do start to battle, Harry's got a great chance at potentially sneaking a podium out of this. Because it'd be tough to then close the gap to the leaders, especially if they start battling in front. It could get tough to truly challenge them, especially for the podium. But I think if the AlphaTauris do start to battle here, Harry has got solid enough pace to potentially be a shout here. As Midnight is going to go for the move here on his teammate, as they head up into Stoke on up the inside. I mean, that was a lot like team orders there to me. I don't know whether it was, but no fight given by Lars. He knows that Midnight has the penalty. Perhaps Midnight can pull all of them much closer to the lead group though, which of course at the moment for the AlphaTauri team, that's what they care about. They care about getting their drivers within that 5 seconds of Kai Eltink, because that is a potential podium there. And of course any time they can gain is also beneficial to Midnight if some drivers further back, maybe a Legend, can start to catch up, although that is unlikely. These guys look safe unless there is a collision. Because there's no real other group of cars that can use DRS off each other to catch up to them.
Well, I have to say on paper, I think Midnight is probably quicker than his teammate Lars. Not by much, but probably the quicker driver, so it's actually the smart thing to do to put Midnight ahead and just have him tow Lars around, because realistically Lars is going to be the driver getting within that 5-second gap of Kai Elting. So in terms of the gap to the leader right now, he is 5.5 seconds away, but if Midnight can get his foot down and Lars can follow through in his DRS, there's certainly no question that he could end up within that 5-second gap of the leader.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how he does. It's going to be sort of a strange one here, whether these drivers can catch up or not. Because we know Midnight has a lot of pace and can definitely race with the drivers that are up front at the moment. But it could be interesting to see sort of in terms of who has managed their tyres better. That could definitely be a big part now of how these guys, how their pace turns out, especially in the late stages of this race. And something we're going to have to look at is actually the tyre wear of some of these drivers. And looking now, I'm seeing sort of the peak or the highest wear on most drivers, sort of mid 40%, which to me does not suggest sort of an imminent failure. And they're very safely going to get to the end of this race. And I must admit, knowing that you can take cars to the end at Silverstone on one stop is something I wish I knew, especially early today in Tier 2. But these guys, they're always on top of it in terms of strategy. That is something that impresses me every single time I watch these guys, is that they always know which strategy, and they might not all go for the same one. But in the end, you see drivers like Kai Elting, Benjamin, Luke, Midnight, who have done a strategy here, which if you told me before the race they were going to pit at the end of lap 1 and go to the end on hards, I would never have believed you, not in a million years. But they've done it, and they're probably going to win. At least one of these hard tyres is most likely going to win the race, as the highest soft run, I believe, is down in P10, Sam Gamer, who speaking of, is making a strong recovery so far. Their gap to lead, but the gap to lead is only 17 seconds though. Despite coming out the pits on fresher, softer tyres, they've barely cut down that gap to the lead. Although they are now in the points and looking like a solid top 10 contender. I think, although looking at it, I think P8's the best they're going to get today.
Yeah.
But it's still points, and as I said earlier, consistency is key. And just to score points is a very strong result. And a result they can definitely build on throughout the season, and try and sort of improve. And I mean, some of the drivers last season, they started off very low points, and they built their way up. And it's always better, I feel, to start with low points and then end the season on a high, a bit like Luke did last season. Because I mean,
preferably you get high points throughout the whole season. But you know, if we're not in that ideal world, we'll go with your analogy, Jackson. Sam Gamer is right on the back of Korn here. Korn is now right on the back of Sam Gamer. Sam Gamer makes an easy move down at the inside of Brooklands, but yeah, as you said, 8th is probably the best Sam Gamer is going to be able to do today. He's going to be quite disappointed with 8th, considering he started up in 4th. Nevertheless, you know, it's points, as you say, and it all goes towards an end cause. Warwick's Rage is up 11 positions, Midnight up 16 positions, so congratulations to him and them. Meanwhile, a little update on the penalty situation. Lars is now within that 5-second gap, so this AlphaTauri towing principle at the minute is working, only just for Lars, but you know, he's gained a second over the course of the last 3 or 4 laps, so it's certainly working, as Benjamin has got past Kai now. So we knew that was going to happen on penalties anyway. That's one thing we missed. I'm not sure if you picked that one up.
I missed that one, yeah. Did anyone catch
that?
That's
embarrassing.
You know, I'm that confused. I'm actually going to look back on stream and see how long has that been like that. It's been a while. This is oh my, it's been a long time. I say a long time. Let me check now. I believe it happened in the Stowe on lap 20. I'm just going to check now. Yep, Benjamin took the lead into Stowe Corner on lap 20. So that is an interesting turn of events there. Apologies, viewers, that we missed that. That is our bad. I mean, luckily it wasn't a legitimate move to lead in terms of Kai's penalty. And perhaps Kai even waved him through because of that penalty, and sort of perhaps wanting to be pulled along by Benjamin, as they did see that gap is getting very close to 5 seconds. It's a bit like Norris in Austria. It's on the edge of 5 seconds, and it's going to be a matter of hundredths whether they get within it or not. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing which way this goes. But it's going to be a close finish here for that final podium position between Kyle Tink and Lars. So, what do you think is going to happen, Alex?
I think it is borderline. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to put any commentator's curse, because you'll know, Jackson, from my time commentating before in VRL and other leagues. It's something I've become accustomed to. You know, I say one thing and the exact opposite happens. So I'm just going to say it's going to be a boring race to the end, and we'll see what happens as Smash leaves the session. That's a commentator's curse joke. I don't wish that. We've certainly got a grandstand finish on our hands at the minute. I wonder if Kai's going to have a go and get a redemption to at least win on the track at Benjamin. You'd think he's just as worth trying. You know, you may as well.
Yeah.
But Luke's still there, and Midnight's still towing along Lars, as Lars is on course to get a podium for the AlphaTauri team.
Yeah, I've got to say, if I was Kai at the moment, the best bet surely is to stay behind Benjamin. Because, yeah, you want the pride of winning, but at the same time you want the podium. You want, at the end of the day, points are what matters. And at the moment, he's not going to get the points for the third place. That's going to go to Lars. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if he can sort of be pulled along by Benjamin. But I must admit, Benjamin's pace isn't rapid, sort of stupidly quick at the moment. Because these guys are still sort of holding up. And DRS is very powerful here, which is obviously helping those guys hold on to him a lot. But I mean, Benjamin, for the pole sitter, perhaps not pulling away much as we expected. Although it's a shame that Kai's been to the pits, because I think that would have been a very good battle for the lead, actually, between Benjamin and Kai. Because even though Benjamin does appear to be the quicker now that he's in front, but that's mainly because of tyre wear, I think there would have been a good battle here, and I think Kai would have pushed a lot harder to keep hold of that race lead.
Of course, maybe Luke would have come into it as well. Now there's the buffer between Luke and Benjamin. There's no point Luke attacking Kai, really, in honest terms. So, you know, have we been robbed of a grandstand top 3 finish? Potentially. Nevertheless, has it still been an entertaining race, an entertaining start to season 7? Absolutely, and I can't wait to be doing this week in, week out throughout the season. It's not concluded yet though, and it can all still go wrong for Benjamin, but the defending season 6 champion is looking very strong here to claim the opening win of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely flying at the moment. I mean, I say that he's got half a second lead, but in terms of Formula Euroleague, and I mean, actually, something I just had a thought as I watched Benjamin go a little bit wide coming out of Stowe is penalties for Benjamin. As also, sorry to change topic, I will go back to the penalties for Benjamin. Is Lars now outside of that 5 seconds? Actually, no, I take that back. He's still inside because Kai's in P2 now. Sorry, I just have to take into that account, because I was used to sort of working off of the leader. So he is just in at the moment, but only by about 4 or 5 tenths, so it's not easy at the moment. But I'm also going to check very quickly the warning situation.
I've beat you to it, Jackson.
Oh, okay.
Benjamin is on 2 warnings. You can see that through TAS, but just to update you, Benjamin is on 2 warnings, so you know he's got to be careful in this last lap. If he picks up a penalty, he's going to hand the win to Luke. But yeah, that's all there is to report. I believe no significant warnings for Luke that I picked up. Or 2 warnings, I should say, for Luke, so I take that back. So Luke and Benjamin both on the knife edge, and Kai Elting also 1 warning off getting a penalty. So the drivers really running it tight, but you know they're all of extremely high caliber. We've got Boyrod and Cool Hands Carter both pitting for soft tyres to go to the end, and well, of course to go to the end, Alex, but to go for the fastest lap.
As Lars sorry to interrupt, Lars is going past Midnight here. That could be, I mean, it depends on what Midnight's pace is like. Looking at the tyre at the moment, Lars is, well, they're pretty much identical there. So it's hard to sort of pick who's quicker out of the 2. But now that Lars is still just in the 5 seconds of Kai, but it's a 10th in it, not even that at this stage. And I'm staring at that gap. And because Kai's now in second place, it makes it a little bit harder now. But we've got to just keep an eye on that, sort of essentially work out. Currently in by about 100. Now he's out. Now he's back. It's so incredibly close here. He's in by about 2 tenths at the moment.
I think it's best to just call it at the end of the race, Jackson.
I agree, because otherwise it's going to be commentary of me staring at the timing screen. But let's look at what's happening on track, shall we?
Disappointing day for George Nader. He's gonna, I think, just miss out on points. One more lap, he might have got corn, but yeah, only 11th for him after starting up in 5th, I believe. We mentioned Sam Gamer as well before. Harry B's had a good race. He's gained. Yeah, he's gained 4 positions. Shazoo Midnight up 15, Lars up 9, and Luke up 5th. And here goes Kai Elting. He does make the move on Benjamin. If this was a legitimate last lap move, maybe we'd be raving about it a little bit more. Unfortunately, we have been robbed of a battle. Nevertheless, Kai through the final corner here, Jackson. He's going to win as Benjamin's gone off.
Benjamin's off. Luke wins. Luke wins. Is that another wheel disconnection? I can't believe it. Benjamin has crashed at the final corner on the final lap of the race. Benjamin has crashed and he won't score points. What has happened to Benjamin? What has just happened to Benjamin? He is out of the race. The guy that was sure in for a win there. All he had to do was sit back and relax. And there must be some sort of wheel disconnection there, as Benjamin has lost the race win, and Viotti Luke takes the win there after a final corner collision. What?
There was no collision.
There wasn't. It was a wheel disconnect.
I was riding on board. I was looking at the position change. All of a sudden, Benjamin's wheel goes straight centre, and he's in the wall. Can you believe it, Jackson?
I can't believe it. Benjamin, I'll say it again, and I'll say it many times, I think, on the final lap, in the final corner, had an easy race win and a wheel disconnect, the third of the race, the third wheel disconnect of the race potentially, has just taken an easy win away from Benjamin. And I mean, if I was Benjamin right now, I just would not know what to think. That is just, it's a cruel finish for Benjamin there, as he's going to end up in 15th place. But I mean if you're VRT Luke, you're over the moon. But, I mean, that's never how you want to win a race, is it?
A race win is a race win at the end of the day, but yeah, it's such a shame for Benjamin. He did everything right. Pole, didn't lead every lap at all, but, you know, lost the lead at the start, stayed with Kai. Oh, what a shame. What a shame for Benjamin.
He was driving a perfect race. I mean, I'm hearing now that he's just thrown his headphones across the room and walked away. I could not imagine being Benjamin right now. I genuinely would not know what to think. That is just it. I have to say now, that is the reigning champion's curse, is what I'm going to call it. Last season, reigning champion Kai Elting had a puncture with about 2 or 3 laps to go and was taken out of a potential podium, an easy podium finish, potential win. This season, a final lap, final corner, the reigning champion, CRG Benjamin, has a wheel disconnection and retires from the race. I just don't believe it.
There must have been 50 metres to go. Maybe not even that.
It was. I'm lost for words. I don't know what to think. I'm distraught for Benjamin, but I'm over the moon for Luke. I mean, we said we were going to lose a grandstand. You commentator cursed it. You said we weren't going to have a grandstand finish, and then that goes and happens. I mean, I don't know what to think. The first time in my entire time commentating, I just don't know what to think. So many emotions. What a finish. That was just, Fanatec, what happened? I'm actually hearing now that Fanatec were having a lot of issues tonight with wheel disconnections, as apparently in another league, another driver I know quite well, F1 Hub, had a wheel disconnect as well. Fanatec, what the hell? What have you done, Fanatec? I mean, I've never been more proud to be sitting behind a Thrustmaster. I mean,
I'm sat here with my Fanatec here.
I bet you're glad you're not racing.
I'm gonna have to duct tape it onto the wheelbase and blue tack everything into it. It's position, Jackson.
I mean,
what a shame! What a shame for Benjamin.
This is just, I mean, if this is what we believe it is to be, a Fanatec issue, and it's a Fanatec issue with so many drivers. I mean, earlier in the race, I joked these drivers are going to be scared about they're going to be sort of holding tight to their wheel for the rest of the race, jokingly thinking that, oh, you know, it's probably just an issue with one driver. But this is a genuine issue. This is a genuine issue that Fanatec appear to have a wheel that is randomly disconnecting tonight. And first of all, I don't understand how the hell that can happen. Admittedly, I don't have a Fanatec. Maybe there is some sort of system in the Fanatec that's obvious why they can randomly disconnect across sort of a worldwide scale. And it's not even like it's one. It's not even like it's one country that's lost power. It's not even like it's one area of the world that's lost it. I mean, there's British drivers, there's Dutch drivers, there's. I don't know. I don't know what to think after that. Alex, do you think you could invite the podium drivers to the party, please?
You'll have to remind me who was who. I know Kai and
Lars. Lars, yeah. Although Kai did eventually beat Lars, although of course in the end that didn't matter. But drivers in the chat, I beg you to stay around whilst we try and find out what the hell's going on. I'm the guy on Instagram now, and I'm gonna look it up now, see if I can just find anything. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I'm sorry for this utterly dreadful commentary at the moment. I'll admit, this is just us going. I don't know what to say. I've genuinely, I would say it again. I just do not believe it. It is absolute.
Jackson does not believe
madness.
it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't believe it. You know. Just
he doesn't believe it.
I'm just gonna stop talking for a while so that you guys don't get bored of me saying I don't believe it. I'm gonna try and find out what happened here, guys. I'm gonna try and find out what happened. As Kai Anthony joins the party, you know what? I'm the talk to the drivers instead. That'll give me something to do. Well, welcome to the party, podium finishers. I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on how that race ended, and I'm sure you'll have some thoughts on what you may have heard is going on at the moment, as a worldwide issue. Alex, would you like to start the interviews whilst I gather my thoughts?
Yeah, congratulations, Kai. What could have been without that 5-second penalty? Just you had a great start, but first of all, let's talk about that 5-second penalty. What happened into the pit lane? Yeah, just asking you about that 5-second penalty. What happened into the pit lane there? Just too fast into the pit lane. Was that the problem? It is a slow pit lane. That's what we expected. But just a little word on the Benjamin. His wheel disconnected. We had a lot of wheel disconnections today. Ballina was one. I think Duncan was another, and obviously Benjamin right at the end. Were you aware of that throughout the race? And just a little comment on it, if you can. Thank you very much. Kyle, coming to you now, Lars. Congratulations on the podium. Made up a few places throughout the race. Looked as if you worked together quite well with your teammate Midnight there. Just talk us through your race and how it was battling away through the field.
Yeah, I was very lucky too because of all disconnects from Duncan, Belliner and Benjamin. So I made up some positions by that. But yeah, and great teamwork with Midnight. What made me a good result.
Congratulations to yourself, and just a little word on the team. You two working together well, good points. Do you think you can continue this momentum and maybe not only just a Constructors' Championship fight, but a Drivers' Championship fight potentially throughout the season?
Yeah, I hope so. I had a very unlucky quali with the rain was coming very early. So yeah, I couldn't get a good result in quali, but hopefully I can move forward to Bahrain.
Well, congratulations, Lars, on your podium. Moving to the race winner now. If I'm completely honest, I think Jackson, you'll be with me on this one. I wasn't expecting to call this man as the race winner, but nevertheless, here we are. Anything can happen, and quite indeed, anything has happened. Luke, congratulations, first of all. How are you feeling?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm still like, what just happened, because this week I didn't do a single lap this week due to a test week, and I was actually on the point of actually not driving today because I still have a lot to do for my test week. So to win it in the last corner is pretty cool, but it's not deserved, but yeah, I'll take it. So pretty nice.
And yeah, I mean, you were certainly there or thereabouts. You said you didn't have practice with, obviously, your tests you've got on. Surely to have that level of pace, to be able to mix it with the top guys on less practice, surely gives you encouragement for the rest of the season. That if you can put a little bit more time into it, you can be right up there and in the thick of it for the championship this season.
Yeah, I think I was really happy with my pace today. So next week I'll have a lot more time. So I will definitely practice and play throughout the week again. So hopefully I can keep this momentum, just like last season, where I also won 3 races in a row. So.
And finally,
nice
Luke, just of course, just finally, Luke, one last word from you. Are you confident heading into Bahrain? Is it a track you like, you settle well with, or is it one you've struggled at a bit more?
It isn't a track where I'm good at, but last season I didn't do much practice for it, but in the end of practice I went constantly faster with my time, so I think I could maybe challenge for a win again, but we have to see.
Awesome, well, thank you very much, Luke. Thank you very much, drivers. You're free to go. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, and congratulations to you all once again. Jackson, back to you. An eventful night, an eventful evening here for round 1 of FEL. Certainly extremely enjoyable.
Yeah, well, as I said many a time, I don't quite believe it, to be honest. There's so much action throughout this, even before the wheel failures came into play. But I mean, a fantastic way to start the season as a viewer, I must say. Of course, many of the drivers won't be happy with that, very understandably. With sort of wheel failures being it's very unfortunate, and it's a shame because there's no sort of easy, when it's an issue that's sort of a clearly a worldwide thing perhaps, or maybe even a European thing. But when it's an issue that is affecting drivers, multiple drivers across different races, different leagues, it's uncontrollable and out of the driver's hands. And I mean, as a viewer, very entertaining race to watch, but it's got a bit of a sour taste because of disconnections. But I mean, I have to say, what a way to start Season 7. A drama-filled race, and lots of battling throughout. And I have to say, Season 7 is going to be a very exciting season if races like this can happen again. And as we said in qualifying, it is impossible to predict.
Yep. Nothing else to add, Jackson. That's your cue.
Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching today's Formula Euro League Season 7 Round 1. Thoroughly entertaining race. I hope you all enjoyed it. Next week we will be back again, I believe, for Bahrain. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But yeah, so next up will be Bahrain. So make sure to join us next week for what will surely be another thoroughly entertaining race. But until next time, goodbye.